Good evening, everyone. When the Belgians decided that they wanted to have another premier racetrack outside of the naturally encompassing forests of Spa-Francorchamps, they decided to have a purpose-built circuit built within the Zolder region. And in the 1960s, plans were put afoot to ensure that this stretch of tarmac and land was transformed into the circuit that you see today. And Circuit Zolder, whilst having gone under a number of iterations over the years, has played a big part in not just open wheel racing, but in truck racing and in GT3 racing too. Not only has it been a permanent stay on most calendars every single year, it's also part of the calendar for season 11 here at ACC Race Nation for round 4 of the championship. I'm Jack Millington, your commentator as always for ACC Race Nation. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be back here around one of my personal favourite circuits at Zolder, and I'm really excited to see how the drivers navigate and get on around this 10-corner circuit. And I say that a little bit inquisitively because, as you'll be able to tell, ladies and gentlemen, when you watch this, there are more than 10 corners, but I will explain why in a moment. I'm delighted because Josip Kosic, who we're on board with, is going to start a lap. So let's get a lap of Zolder here whilst we're in qualifying. So he comes out of the final corner, runs a little bit over the grass. No damage done, but Josip blasts his way towards turn 1, up to about 143 miles an hour, down through the gears, second for the BMW M4 driver, short shifts to third, uses all of the exit curb there. He's got to line his braking zone up here at turn 2. It's a long progressive corner, can't be too hasty on the front. You can see him working the wheel as he rounds turn number 2. It's a very long corner. Number 3 is a little bit blind on entry, and your turn in is crucial, but in third to fourth gear the BMW's done quite well. Now we're approaching what is effectively known as turn 5, even though there's 2 corners. A heavy braking zone on the track. That's a big cut over the inside curb of the chicane. Over the rise into turn 6, but this is when we come into turn 7, despite there being 4 corners. Down through the gearbox he goes, clips the inside, bounces over the curb, then returns to the right hand side of the track, lines up the corner, a little bit on the grass on the exit of the second part of the double right-hander, and he's through there. That left-hander isn't classed as a corner. This is turn 8, another heavy braking zone on the back half of the track. Nicely done for the M4 driver. He's doing a good lap so far as Kosic. Through turn 9, I know it's a bit strange, but it is turn 9, and then one last final heavy braking zone into this chicane here. Clips over the left-hand curb, over the right-hand curb, and that is a lap of Zolder in the hands of Josip Kosic. What is the lap time going to be from the number 9? It is a 1:28.810. Strong opening gambit from the man who has always been exceptionally fast as Josip, but has never had the opportunity to translate that into a championship title yet. I use that word as it's very important. Now don't forget, of course, in the championship for this season there is ballast running on the drivers who finished in the top 3 from last week's event. So I skipped through the drivers. We're just following the number 23 Aston Martin there of Howard Dunn. I've not yet commented on Howard Dunn. He wasn't in round 2, the first round that was broadcast this season, but it's good to see another AMR V8 out there. He's not running ballast as far as I'm aware, but I will tell you the drivers who have, well, rather I should say will be running ballast. So Hartzell Toby, let me just return back to the garage just so you've got the screen. So Hartzell Toby, who actually isn't here tonight, would have been running the ballast for finishing in second place last week, but he, like I say, is not here. Mark Gray in the 81 Mustang, he is here. He finished third last week, scoring his first podium of the season. A cracking result for Mark. He will be running a little bit of ballast. I believe it's 10 kilos in the Mustang. So Mustang already a heavy car. He's going to have to lug it around a little bit more. He's currently on the third row of the grid. And obviously our current pole sitter, Josip Kosic, his first appearance of the season, won last time out. And he's on pole position at the moment by half a second. But that ballast doesn't seem to be having much of an impact on the Swede. But there's a long, long way to go still in this qualifying session. It can all change. There's a long way to go in the race. Of course, it's not Imola, which is where the drivers were racing around last week. And the championship is, as a result, quite close. I'll talk a little bit about the championship in a moment. I just want to highlight a couple of drivers who I didn't have the opportunity to commentate on at round 2 at Kyalami. We've got Scotty Ayabas, the number 67, which is Colin Gallagher. So the Irish driver running the green and white liveried Mustang there. Just a touch of green to represent the Irish. It's good to see. Have a little look through as well. Just to scroll down through my list of drivers that I've got that I didn't cover. Mark Gray is out on track. There is somebody else. And it was the Aston Martin driver of Howard Dunn as well. So those are the two who I'll be keeping an eye out tonight. See how they get on in the championship fights that are happening up and down the field. Got a number of drivers coming over the start-finish line. I believe it's Mark Chapman coming towards the checkered flag across the bottom of the page there on the screen. He stays in 4th position for the time being. I believe that was Tony Sokolov, our championship leader, going across the line in 2nd. He's closed that gap back up to Josip Kosic. He's now less than 2.5 tenths of a second. What about Daniel Hatton? What can he do in the McLaren? That's a bigger improvement. He's half the deficit. He's 1.1 seconds behind now in that McLaren. I've got to say, I looked at it at Kyalami and I thought it was a nice livery. I really do like the red, yellow and black. I think it's a nice colour scheme on the 55. We've got the 23. Can the Aston Martin get into the top 10? Not yet. An invalidated lap time there. Looking to see who else is coming across the line. And that was, of course, Colin Gallagher going across the line into the top 5. But Jeffrey Van Buren decides against keeping him in the top 4 and pushes him down a spot. More lap times coming in from drivers. I'm just looking to see Ross Harris yet to set a lap time. Danny Zoutenbayer yet to set a lap time. We're 8 minutes into qualifying. The reigning champion has got a bit of work to do. About the 81 comes across the line. It's a slight improvement. 5 thousandths of a second. Simon Whiting goes across the line and stops. So he won't be improving any further than that. Danny Felix back in the championship. Haven't been able to talk much about Dan. But he's just going through turn 9 at the moment. I can't say 9 and 10 because that's statistically incorrect. But there we are. That's what the guys decided. The guys and girls of Zolder, of course. But what about Felix? Can he improve? He cannot on that lap. What about Jacob Byford-Root? A good effort so far for him. He's in the top 12, which is really, really good to see. We've got Fabio Matt currently in 15th place, the Italian in the pink Ferrari. That is a strange off that I've just seen from Fabio Matt. It looked like he locked the rear brakes and just went straight into the gravel track. No harm done, but bizarre accident. Season 10 champion Danny Zoutenbayer, he's got a lap time into the top 10, but he's not going to improve if he goes that wide again. Less than ideal line for the yellow and blue Ferrari driver. We're not seeing any laps at the moment from Stuart Packham, Rich Jarram, Tony Manley is going back out and John Wells. So we'll find out what's happening there. But it's Tony Sokolov who's got up to pole position. We didn't see it because the timing board had flicked off the top spot. But Tony Sokolov is on pole position. He's snatched it away from Kosic, who has to respond now. Chapper's the only other driver within half a second of the front two, which is staggering. I have to be honest, Zolder is one of those race circuits where, because the first sector is, Chapman goes very wide out of turn 4, Zolder is one of those race circuits where the weight doesn't affect the cars as much in the first sector because they're quite quick corners. It'll affect tyre wear, but not necessarily the speed. There's a lot of heavy braking zones as well where they could lose time in the second half of the lap, but it's not as bad as other circuits, as Jeffrey Van Buren pops in a lap time of 1:28.9. So that puts him onto the second row of the grid. Simon Whiting in the pits. There's Mark Gray in the Mustang, running a grey and blue livery. So it's aptly named. Dennis Penders, he'll be wanting to do his utmost for the home fans. The Belgian in Belgium will be absolutely striving to improve on his race finishes this season. He scored a 7th place at the first round of the championship, but since then he's been 10th and 15th. So I'm sure Dennis will be aiming for a top 10 finish tonight. Got the extra motivation of having the home crowd supporting him. We've got, of course, Daniel Hatton inside the title. We've got a couple of the new drivers who've joined this season have jumped onto the pace very, very quickly. They've equipped themselves well to the championship, which is positive to see. We've also got in 13th place at the moment Nick Lamming. Can never forget the bright green livery with a little yellow splash going on. It almost reminds me of Norwich City's old kit, to be fair. And the away strip. Jacob, another good lap time for Byford. He's really getting to grips with this circuit. There's certain circuits that Byford, I remember, I think it was at Misano last season. He did really well around there. Certain types of tracks he just seems to be very well equipped to, which is good to see. Really good to see. We've also got Howard Dunn out there. He's in 15th at the moment. He's within 2 seconds of pole position, which is not a bad effort in the slightest. Ross Harris is a little bit further back, but I'm still waiting for a representative lap time from Ross. I would expect the 244 to be a bit higher up the field in the Porsche. Of course, the only Porsche in the field tonight, which is kind of a little bit like last season and the season before, where he was the only Lamborghini in the field at times. So Ross just going his own way with it all. Liam Watkinson's in 17th, and then Fabio Matt, who had that weird braking issue before and went off the road, he's in 18th place. Of the drivers who've set a valid lap time, we're obviously still yet to see lap times from 19th through to 22nd, with less than 7 minutes to go on the clock here in qualifying, as 23 Aston Martin of Dunn slides out of the final corner. Is this an improvement for him? It is not. It's down by 0.2 of a second. You've got the big booming V8 underneath that AMR car. And he had to short shift there through turn 3 just because the car started to get loose. A good car control from the AMR driver, but for Dunn, he's just got to keep focusing, keep pushing. The race, of course, is an hour long, and there's plenty of opportunity, especially plenty of opportunities around here, around this track, to make mistakes. You know, it's not so much that you could spin off out of corners. That's less of an issue. It's more about the corners that we're going through here. You can bounce over the curbs and have a big accident with another car if you get it all wrong. And the chicanes are really key areas of this race circuit where you can make a lot of time up with a bit of bravery. But we're, of course, following Howard Dunn in the number 23. Move it over to Chapman, who's in 4th at the moment, in the same car. He's not improving on his lap time at the moment as Chappers. And we'll have a little run through of the championship standings, actually. So let me just flick it over to a camera where we can all see the cars, just to give you a bit of perspective. So Tony Sokolov is leading the championship at the minute and qualifying. He is on 60 points, but he didn't finish last week at Imola. So that is his drop score applied there. Not ideal for him. Any more issues, and that's going to wipe him out of the championship if he's not careful. Hartle Toby isn't here this evening. He's second, though, in the championship. He's on 57 points. Danny Zoutenbayer getting his groove back. He is in 3rd in the driver's standings. He's on 53 points with a podium to his name at Kyalami. Jeffrey Van Buren, whoa, see what I mean, ladies and gentlemen? You saw Danny just having to get out of the throttle and move across there. The chicanes at this circuit really can cause problems for drivers, even if they're not the ones having the accidents. 4th place at the minute, Jeffrey Van Buren. He won the opening round, of course, but he's on 52 points at the moment. Phoenix Night Train isn't here tonight, but he's 5th in the driver's standings on 51 points, tied with Mark Chapman as well. Jordan Harden, another driver, sadly not here tonight, number 16, McLaren. He is on 51 points also, as is Simon Whiting. We've got a tie from 5th to 8th on 51 points there. So that's Phoenix Night Train, Mark Chapman, Jordan Harden and Simon Whiting. And then inside the top 10, you have Stuart Packham, who is still in the pits, which I'm assuming is legitimate. He probably won't be able to set a lap time. And Mark Gray in the 81 Ford, who's just inside the top 10. He is 10th right now in the driver's standings on 48 points. It's very close in the driver's standings at the moment as Mark goes off the road. So 3 and a bit minutes to go. I'm going to cut to the external cameras, because the external cameras at Zolder are typically much better on ACC than other race circuits. I think maybe it's because of the proximity of the track to the walls. It means they've got to be put in certain places. I think Joseph Kosic has gone off the road, but he's returned to the pits. Will he have enough time to get back out and set a lap? That's the big question. Well, I'm going to go to Danny Zoutenbayer. We've got less than 3 minutes to go in qualifying. And the blue and yellow Ferrari, the 101, the season 10 champion, is on the 3rd row of the grid right now. He's 3rd in the driver's standings, so there's a lot of parallels for him, but he'll want to push a little bit higher than that. He'll be desperately seeking a place higher than 6th position. A little slide out of turn 10, the final corners of this track. He sits in 6th place for now. Simon Whiting, he does improve, but look how close it is for pole position. A 10th covers the top 4. That's absolutely fantastic. That is the competitive element of this league right here. The top 4 are comfortably, you could throw a stone over a lot of them. They're that close. That's fantastic. We can see the Mustang just getting out of shape. It's Conor Gallagher. Can he get any closer to the front? Not at the moment, but he's got time for 2 more laps potentially if he's fueled for it. Byford Rue again keeping himself inside the hunt for a spot in the top 10. He's 13th at the moment. That's a good effort. I think it's Fabio Matt now coming towards the start-finish line, and he's a little bit quicker, but it's no positional improvement for him. Dennis Penders is pulling over and I think stopping. Yeah, that's it. His qualifying is over, so he won't break the top 10. Kosic goes across the line, so this is the lap for him. He's got to nail the lap now. We saw him go off the road before. Now he's got to try and attack the lap again. And that similar situation applies to Howard Dunn. We're less than a minute to go in qualifying now. And this is critical moments. These are critical minutes for the drivers. Simon Whiting comes towards the start-finish line. He's done. That's it. It's game over. Mark Chapman, can he make an improvement? He does, but he just can't get inside that top 4. But he's less than 2 tenths off pole position. Tony Sokolov, can he push the ball park a little bit further? He can't. 30 seconds to go. This is his final lap. A lot of drivers, Josip Kosic, Whiting. You've also got Dan Hatton. You've got as well a couple of other drivers inside the top 10. Nick Lamming and Mark Gray. They're done. That's their qualifying efforts finished. Byford Root is still going. Can he get a top 10 qualifying time? That would be incredible to see him inside the top 10 in a 22 car field. But all the laps now that these drivers are on, these last 6 drivers that I could see out on circuit, this is it for them. There are no more chances for them to improve their grid position. And grid position round here is important. You know, whilst they've got a rolling start, you don't want to be in the midfield, especially in the first lap, with the way that these curbs are. Because if you get blindsided by an accident in front of you, that'll be your race over. Can the 23 Aston Martin, can Howard Dunn get inside the top 10? No, he can't. He stays on the 6th row of the grid. It's still a solid effort from the Aston Martin driver. Speaking of, what about his fellow stablemate in the triple one? The blue, orange and white Gulf-inspired Mark Chapman livery. Can he get any closer than what he's already doing? He's going towards the line. He does improve, but it's not quite enough to make an impression on the top 4. Tony Sokolov, can he push that gap even further? Yes, he can. He extends the gap by 0.06 of a second. So you're looking at Fabio Matt now, who's in 18th place. He's coming towards the start-finish line. No improvement from him. So the last driver is Byford Root, and he's in the pits, and that's that. Tony Sokolov has snatched pole position by about 1/10 of a second from Josip Kosic. What a great qualifying session that was. Jeffrey Van Buren is 3rd, with Simon Whiting 4th, and Mark Chapman in 5th. Now, those 5 drivers are within 2/10 pretty much of one another. There's a half a second gap back to Danny Zoutenbayer. Those 5 are pushing the absolute extremities of their machines at the moment. The reigning champion is in 6th place. Then, in 7th, on the 4th row of the grid, you've got Dan Hatton, and alongside him is Colin Gallagher. Then you also have the number 87 of Nick Lamming and Mark Gray. Then into the 6th row of the grid, you've got Dennis Penders and you've got Howard Dunn. Row 7, great qualifying effort from Jacob Byford Root. That he's alongside Danny Felix. Then it's Davy Zoutenbayer, and then there's a gap back to the rest of the field. So I'll talk about those with aplomb. You've got Liam Watkinson in 16th position. Row number 8 involves Ross Harris and Fabio Massa, the last of the drivers to set qualifying times. Stuart Packham, Rich Jarram, John Wells and Tony Manley unable to set a lap time due to qualifying regulations. I'm going to give myself just a moment to have a breather before we get back into the racing action. But I will stay here on the stream. Don't worry, the stream won't stop or anything like that. But I'll be just a few moments. So less than 50 seconds till the start of the 1 hour race here at Zolder, this fabulous circuit that has hosted some of the greatest races over the years, whether it was the European Touring Car Championship in the 1980s, so the ETCR Championships. If you don't know what that is, that's the Truck Racing Championship, which is one of the premier events around Zolder currently on the 2025 calendar. GT3 races and World Touring Cars have also visited here. I'm deliberately avoiding Formula 1 because, of course, that track was a lot different to what it is nowadays, but we've got less than 10 seconds to go until the formation lap begins. What we've got here is, yes, fantastic, that's what we're after. So the formation lap is about to begin. And there we go, the drivers now pulling away from their grid slots. Jeffrey Van Buren there in third place. I'm gonna stick with Davy Zoutenbayer for a moment. And bear in mind that Davy Zoutenbayer is the only man flying the Nissan flag in the GTR Nismo. I want to point something out to everybody, just to give you a bit of a driver's eye perspective of the challenge of being in midfield around this circuit is. We'll get on board with the Nissan. Now, the first couple of corners around Zolder aren't typically too problematic. They're relatively straightforward in the pack. There isn't much incidents-wise going on. But in a moment, you'll see what I'm talking about when we come to this first chicane. So here we go, we got Zoutenbayer just weaving the car. Oh, and that's Dan. That's Danny Felix in the wall. I hope he hasn't got damage from that. That was a bizarre one, but that has just literally proved my point. You can't see, at the moment, the braking zone, really, until about here, for the cars all bunch up. And that's a really difficult scenario. If you're in the middle of the pack, if you get the line slightly wrong and you bounce over those curves wrong and you end up in the middle of the road, you're going to have a huge accident. And it's similar going into chicane 2, what is effectively turn 7. It's a similar issue, and these curbs can spit the car out slightly differently because they dip down and bounce up. It's kind of the inverse of what a curb is normally like. So that is a problem that the drivers will face during bunching. If they get it wrong, it can unsettle the camber on the car and you can end up spinning around. There we go, we're just a few moments away from the start. Let us get towards our pole sitter of Tony Sokolov. Can he make a good start? Can he nail the start here at Zolder? Towards the line they come. Here we go then for an hour at Zolder. And the race is live here at Circuit Zolder, and that's a good start from Sokolov, and he covers the inside line. But I tell you what, Simon Whiting is trying to go up the inside of him. Can he get through going into turn 3? I think they're going to be side by side. No, it's not the case. Whiting is up into second. A great start from the number 19 driver. Jeffrey Van Buren's gone backwards. He's lost the spot. So Simon Whiting's had an outstanding start. Top work from the McLaren. I'm just going to go back to the garage just so we can watch the drivers coming through the first chicane as the game decides to update the timing tower in a particular odd way, but there we are. It is still Tony Sokolov who leads the way. Look at the big bouncers going over the curb. I think that was, yeah, I thought it was the number 87, Nick Lamming, having a big bounce over the curbs there. He's got in front of Dan Hatton. And that's it, Kosic has gone off the road. This is what I was saying. All the cars bunched up together. Sometimes you just can't spot your braking point. And a few of the drivers running into strife, and I think Kosic has managed to stay in front of everybody somehow. Liam Watkinson under pressure from the big Bentley behind from Stuart Packham, who's looking for a way past. Watkinson defending, and there goes the Bentley down the inside. And as Packham rightfully pointed out to me 2 weeks ago, that car is immense in size. But he does move past the McLaren. Expect that Bentley to move through the field. It's a track that's well suited to that car, I feel. Oh, Watkinson almost running into the back of him. But it's Sokolov who leads the way. The championship leader's got a 0.6 of a second gap to Simon Whiting. Danny Zolder is third, and look who's going down the field. Josip Kosic has gone off the road at the final corner and is all the way down in last place. But Jeffrey Van Buren is with him, and I wonder if those two have made contact yet, and Buren lets him back through. So Jeffrey Van Buren and Josip Kosic have made contact, so 2 of the top 5 are already outside of the top 20. Nightmare start for those two as Kosic is off the road out of the exit of turn 3. Less than ideal. That is Nick Lamming going over the curbs, but he's got Gallagher right behind him now. He's been overtaken as well by Dan Hatton, who's got up into 5th place. So a great drive so far. We are, of course, only in the opening 2.5 minutes, but still, really good start for the bright red, yellow and black 55 McLaren. Runs a little bit too wide out of turn 7, but gets away with that. Dennis Pender's up into 8th place. He'll be happy with that. Mark Gray's there in 9th. Davey Zaltenbayer in the top 10. You've got the 23 of Howard Dunn there too, as Stuart Packham has made an outstanding start. Just watching this battle here with Tony Manley and Jeffrey Van Buren and everybody. Let's see if we can get on board with this. I think Tony Manley's gone round, yeah. Tony Manley's gone round, and Josip's off the road again. So if they made contact into the hairpin, and yeah, Josip's slowing down for him. And I think Van Buren's been caught up in that. So a dream qualifying has been soured incredibly quickly. A nightmare start, especially for Kosic, who's now miles away from the pack. As Davey Zaltenbayer in 10th place, Stuart Packham in the massive Bentley in 13th position, but he is flying right now. He's had the perfect start. See if he can make any more progress. There's Liam Watkinson. He's battling with Ross Harris and Jacob Byford-Rue in front of us, briefly side by side, but the M4 thinks better of it. But Byford-Rue really putting the pressure onto the Porsche of Harris here. As you can see from our onboard perspective from Watkins, you can see how the cars bump over these curves here, and look how it unsettles the McLaren we're on board with. Less than ideal. Nick Lamb in there. We've got Simon Whiting, who's doing a good job keeping up with Sokolov. We've seen Sokolov drive off into the distance before, so for Simon this will be a big test for him tonight. It'd be great to see Simon Whiting win a race. It's been a little bit of time, to be fair to the number 19 driver. He's a quick guy, he deserves a race victory. He's just had spots of misfortune, I think, at times, and he should have won more races. But today, as I say that, I give him a bit of commentator's curse. Let's come away from him. Danny Felix, 12th place at the moment. All's going relatively well for the drivers. Not seeing any major problems out there. We are very overcast with the weather today, as Chapman looking at the back of the reigning champion. And Danny Zaltenbayer, his qualifying might not have been the greatest so far in this season, but his race pace has been solid. And he's in 3rd position, and that's how you build up a championship. That's how you win championships overall compared to other drivers, is just having that consistency. But Chapman is putting the pressure on at the minute. Number 111 wants to be P1, not P4 right now. Zout just moving to the inside of the track a little bit there. It was maybe a touch over defensive, but the thing that Chapman will have as an advantage over the Ferrari is that the straight line speed of the Aston Martin is a little bit stronger. But he has to be close around here. You can't make a half attempted lunge around Zolder, because it will just end in an accident for both drivers. You've got to be clean. Oh, that was a little bit too late on the brakes from Chapman. He's going to lose a bit of time as a result. Just brings Hatton back into the conversation. No relation to Ricky, as far as I'm aware. The 87 of Nick Lammen. He's been distanced a little bit, but that's not a problem because Stuart Packham is up to 8th place. So we've got a few drivers in the pits. So Mark Gray's coming into the pits. Dennis Penders is there, and that's big damage to the Belgian. Let's get our cameras switched around for that one. Rich Jarum's in the pits, but he wasn't involved. Look at the damage that Dennis Penders has got. I saw a number of names changing in the timing tower, but that's big damage for Penders, and I think he's clearly had an accident, sadly, with Mark Gray, who is, well, his pit box is positioned near the toilets. You read into that what you will. There's a little fight going on, though, for 6th place. And this is where I'm going to just focus my attention. There's a fight on for 3rd as well, but I'm going to just look at these two here, of Lamming and, of course, Gallagher. Because these two are very close together at the moment. And the Mustang is another car in the field that has a bit of a straight line advantage over the McLarens and the Ferraris. But it's not that simple overtaking around this circuit. It is always a challenge. And just to curtail my surprise, Stuart Packham is in 8th place from outside, from basically 20th position. I mean, it's an incredible start for him. I don't think Stuart will have expected to have had a start like that, but there we are. And the next car up ahead of him is the fight for 7th, so we'll watch that with interest as Liam Watkinson on the back of Ross Harris here. Really harrying the Porsche driver. He can ride on board with the 244. Into turn 4, a little bit wide from the Porsche. And Davy Zoutenbayer's behind these two as well, and he was in front of them before as well, so there's been a coming together of sorts. But Liam Watkinson he's had his breakfast, his lunch and his dinner today. He is right on the back of the Porsche. He's putting it all under all sorts of pressure. Look how close he closes up into the braking zone of turn 7. Right over the rear spoiler of this fight. And this is the last spot inside the top 10 as well. But Watkinson under pressure from Davy Zoutenbayer. That's a nice line out of turn 7. He's down the inside, but he's not quite close enough, is Davy. Although on exit, that looked quite close. But thanks to the unique nature of the way that the cameras work in this game, we couldn't quite see the fight. He's on the inside again, but he's just not close enough. Oh, he's going into the pit, so I wonder if Davy's got a bit too much damage. We can't see it, but it looks like there's a bit of damage at the back of the car, but is that affecting him? We don't know. It's a very early pit stop in any case, and I reckon that'll be to fix some damage. So that puts Fabio Matt into 12th place. John Wells in 13th. Jeffrey Van Buren's recovery drive sees him in 14th place. Then it's Tony Manley in the gunmetal grey AMR V8. Then in 16th place you've got Howard Dunn, who's gone backwards. There's Kosic in 17th. And I think we've got a few cars who are now... Oh, that's Rich Jarum round! And into the barrier, potentially, in the Lamborghini. The camera is still panning away, but it looks like he's gone into the pits. So, sadly for Rich Jarum, that's looking like a game over already. Sokolov extending that gap out at the front. He's now 2 seconds clear of Simon Whiting. But the pressure that Mark Chapman is putting onto the back of Danny Zoutenbayer is immense right now. I'm skipping through the drivers so we can get on board with the AMR V8. This is where my attention is focused on. This fight's going on with Tony Manley further back as well. But there are also cars interspersed in the field, so might not be as close as you think it might be, as Zoutenbayer had a big wobble out of turn 3. He needs to be right under the rear diffuser of that Ferrari if he wants to move up the inside, but over the grass for the Ferrari in front of us, but he stays on the road. And I think Zolder has just flicked his lights on as well, because it is getting darker at the moment. And one driver who's right in the thick of all of this is Daniel Hatton. I think he's just had a little mistake out of the chicane though. He was less than a second behind. It's 1.7 now, so I think he's just had a wobble over the curbs. Oh, look at the line that Zolder took through there. And Chapman is desperately trying to find a way through. And I wonder at what point in this race does Chapman send it down the inside. Here we go into the hairpin. Oh, I thought he was going to shape up for that. He's right with the Ferrari. Couldn't get any closer without running into the back of him. Little bit of a lag spike for a moment, but it's all good. Short shifted. Chapman just looks more confident at the moment at this stage of the race. We're almost a quarter of the way through now. And Chapman looks confident, looks comfortable with the car. You see the Ferrari's just dancing around a few too many times what a driver would like ideally. They'd like the car to be as stable as possible. Especially at Zolder, because you can lose a lot of time. But the run that the Aston gets out of turn 3 is impressive, and he gets a tighter turn in and a little wiggle from the Ferrari. Now this is a chance. This is a chance for Chapman. Will he look to the inside? No, he backs off. He backs off of it. Decides the better. Judges himself on as the side of caution, really. But it does feel like it's a matter of time before he goes through. And I thought Zolder was going to miss the chicane. He almost did, actually. Might have got a warning for track limits on that one. Oh, look at this. He's all over that. He just cannot find a way past. And I think it's fair racecraft from Chapman, because a lot of other people would have probably got fed up by now and just thrown a blue and orange shape Aston Martin down the inside and worry about the consequences later. But it's clean racecraft. Oh, Zolder's got it wrong, and that's the mistake that Chapman was looking for. That pressure told in the end, and through goes the AMR V8. That is the overtake he's been looking for. And Zolder, again, this is the second time where I saw a Ferrari with a little bit more rear brake bias, just not making the final corner. And maybe that just needs to be pushed a little bit more forward for the Ferraris. Because I've seen Fabio Matt have the exact same issue going into turn 10. But that pressure has told. And Mark Chapman moves on to a podium. Excuse me, a podium place. Tony Manley still fighting with everybody in 14th place. He's got Watkinson in front of him and Kosic behind. So he's got to attack and defend in the 318. Well, Watkinson driving a good race at the moment. Kosic is right there. You can see in the little screen of the inside of the car here. Ooh, big switch from Watkinson as he went over the curb. You can see that Kosic is right there in his mirrors, filling the screen. Ooh, a little bit of sliding under braking for the Aston Martin. So far, lots of little fights breaking out on track at the minute as Jeffrey Van Buren looks to the inside of John Wells, and Kosic has gone for it down the inside, and that's a move that he needed to make. The Swede up into 14th place. I also wanted to just make a point. Stuart Packham in the, well, because we're in a closer camera, the massive Bentley. He is on the back of the top 6. He's got Conor Gallagher right in front of him in 6th place, and then in 7th, right at this moment in time, you've got Nick Lamin. So Stuart Packham is right with them, and he was about 6 seconds behind before. So that Bentley has got a lot of speed available to it. But now can he use it? Can he access it? We know that Stuart is a good driver. We know he's quick and clean air, and he can overtake cars around him. as the Mustang. Gallagher got a little bit sideways, and Packham saw that and then just made a bit of a mistake himself, so that gap extends a little bit further away from him. Can Packham get past the pair of them? Put himself on for an unbelievable result at the moment. He's on for 8th, which anyone would be delighted with, but 6th would be an incredible result. Anything higher than that, and I think he would be reaching to the impossibility of the world. I don't think Packham thinks that's a possibility. I think he'll go for a 130 flat that time around. Obviously, it is a little bit confusing when you see him driving a Bentley, but he's got Nissan gloves on. Do try and not pay too much attention to that. I don't think anybody at Nissan or Bentley would want to create the Nissan Continental. Sounds good, but I don't think it's a upcoming car in your local market anytime soon. Ride on board with the Bentley into the next couple of corners here at Zolder, over the crest. It's got a nice run actually. There's Packham on Lamming, and I thought he might have had a little look at the inside. It would have been brave and potentially a little bit daft to have done that. That's a bit wide from Lamming. This is a chance. Yeah, he's got on the power nice and early as Packham, so he's going to have to defend Lamming here. He's going to go to the inside line. We'll cut to the external shot for this, because if Packham can hold on around the outside, all cut underneath him, which he's going to try to do, he'll have a better opportunity in theory coming towards turn 10. He's right in the slipstream. Lamming is defending, but he just is able to cover for the time being. But that's what Packham's got to do. He's got to keep putting him on the wrong line. But I have to say, that was nice car control from Lamming. He just stopped the car on the curve. Packham couldn't get a run out the corner, but he can to the outside line of turn 1. Brakes a little bit earlier, does Packham. He's going to try and go underneath the car if he can, but Lamming makes the corner. Oh, he's a bit wide though at turn 2, and ooh, the convergence of lines almost ended up being a massive disaster for the pair of them, and contact could have been had, but they survived. They lived to fight another day. I also noticed that Jeffrey Van Buren has got a stop-go penalty, so his day goes from bad to worse. Lamming still defending, of course. They actually lost a little bit of time as a result of their fight, so Colin Gallagher had a chance to have a breather, but he's actually gone off the road there. That'll be a track limits warning. And Lamming kind of followed his line through. Simon Whiting still keeping Tony Sokolov honest here, and I mentioned this last time we commentated at Round 2 at Kyalami. It's just about keeping yourself close enough to the drivers in front of you. The undercut is possible in a 1 hour race, depending on how you time your strategies. There is a gap, I think, for these front runners to go into, as I'm going to say that's... yeah, I was going to say Tony Sokolov just went and kicked up a load of dirt there. He just lost a couple of tenths to Simon Whiting. But if Simon decides he's going to try the undercut, it could be worth it. Could be saving himself a couple of seconds. Getting those tyres switched on might just get him ahead of the Ferrari. Chapman is doing a good job actually in 3rd place since he got in front of that group containing Danny Zoutenbayer, and who has also subsequently been overtaken by Daniel Hatton. He is doing a really good job actually. Let's just have a look at the lap times. It's 29.3 from Simon Whiting, 29.8 from Dan Hatton. And if I just have I'm just scanning through all the drivers. I'm looking for a 28.8 from Chapman. So he is absolutely stonking along here in the AMR. He's got some speed in that car, and this is the time to deploy it. He's 6th in the driver's standings. There's a championship potential opportunity for Chapman. I know we're only round 4 of a 15 race calendar, but it's all about making those early scores. Just trying to eliminate your mistakes. It's definitely a possibility for the British driver to pull it off. 29.5 on the last lap. Tony Manley did 29.6 on the last lap. Really good lap time that from Manley. Kosic is inside the top 10. So his recovery drive is going quite strongly. Fabio Matt's still circulating. He's in 15th place. Danny Zoutenbayer is putting the pressure on to the back of Hatton, but I was a touch too deep into that corner there. It's still sometimes quite difficult to get around the fact that that chicane that we've just gone through is turn 5, not turn 5 and 6. It's a little bit uncommon in terms of the way that they've numbered the corners on this racetrack. But that's another unique nature of Zolder as a race circuit. One of the big reasons why we love it on the calendar. Pender's in 20th place. What can Dennis do from here? I mean, he was clearly involved in a massive incident that we didn't see. And he's circulating 2 seconds in front of Jeffrey Van Buren at the moment. He's going to have to hope when the pit stops come round that he's looked after his tyres long enough to make it to the end without a second pit stop. That's what he'll be hoping for. Sokolov still leads the way. The Croatian is having fun out there. He could potentially be the fastest driver in the lobby, to be fair to him. I know a couple of other people would lay claim to that, but as the course of this season has gone, he's had a second place and a first place. He knows how to win races, he knows how to get pole positions. But he's being shadowed by Whiting, who's not letting him go, and I think that's something that Sokolov is going to have to plan. Will he react to Whiting? Will he decide to undercut Whiting and just surprise him? As Whiting flashes his lights at the back end of the straight there. Davey Zoutenbayer, he's pitted as well for that damage that he had before. Stuart Packham is now running in 7th place. So we've not seen what's happened to Nick Lamming. He's not far away as Nick, but he's nearly 3 seconds behind. So he's had an issue somewhere on track. Oh, that's a lot closer from Packham. He's putting the Irish driver under pressure right now. To be fair, 2 big cars that are quite evenly matched, to be honest. The Mustang and the Continental. To be honest with you though, having said that, the Continental still looks half a unit up on the Mustang, to be honest. It has that imposing presence. And I think it's to do with the big radiator grille that's on the front of that Bentley. That just makes it seem even more massive than what it actually is. And I know some people are probably watching this thinking, Jack, why are you getting so hung up over the size of the Bentley? You just can't not see it. It just dominates the racetrack. But right now, Packham is using all of his abilities. As a former champion of the league back in season 9, he is using all of his ability to try and find a way past Conor Gallagher. I'm going to correct myself, Colin Gallagher. I do have a little bit of a scratchy throat. And into the pits goes the Irishman, actually. He's into 6th place now as Packham. So Gallagher in the pits, maybe looking to do an undercut, just to being a bit of fresh air as well, not have to have the pressure of Packham behind him. But that's going to release the Bentley. Lamming is further back. So Lamming he's had a mistake on that lap as well. He's still in It's not been overtaken by anybody. That must have been the gap that they had back to those on the bottom reaches of the top 10, which would have been Josip Kosic and the 244 of Ross Harris and Tony Manley for that matter as well. So it's not affected him too much, but he's definitely been off the road. Danny Felix, he's been into the pits. The 985. I think this is a really good drive from Hatton at the moment. Oh, and that's a stop and go penalty for Liam Watkinson for speeding in the pit lane. So nightmare for him. Don't think he'll be too impressed with that. John Wells comes into the pit lane. Well, this is about time now for the drivers to make pit stops. You know, there will be some people who I guarantee will go further into this race and they'll try and have extremely fresh tyres at the end. Some drivers also pit as well and don't change tyres. Tyre wear around here is... it's difficult to gauge, really. There's only this corner and the next corner that are really punishing high-speed turns that would put more pressure on the left-hand side of the car rather than everywhere else. The rest of them are sort of stop and start corners, so tyre wear shouldn't be too bad around here. So I think there'll be a good few drivers attempting to not change tyres at their stops. Mark Gray has made a pit stop. He's in 17th. Let's just have a little overview of where we are. So Sokolov is in the lead of this race, but he's catching up to back markers. But Mark Chapman has absolutely sived that gap down. He's 4.1 seconds off the lead. So Chappers is absolutely flying at the moment. I just want to have a look at the lap times. Let's go onto the board here. We can see that Simon White in the last few laps he's done 29.3, 29.4, and then a 30 flat on the last two. They're not exactly slow laps, but they're not on speed with what he's been typically doing. That is a stop and go penalty for John Wells coming through. It's a 29.6 on that last lap for Simon. And then if we look at as Tony Sokolov pits from the race lead, now that's important as they try and filter their way through the traffic. Chappers has not been outside of the 29s. Chappers is absolutely fine, but I think he might have been held up a little bit there as he tries to lap the cars around him. He's got John Wells in front of him right now. Where will Sokolov re-emerge? Because that's kind of important for the race, because yes, he might stop early to conserve his lead, but if he comes out in traffic, he can lose a lot of time from that alone as well. Still in the pit lane. There's no one really behind him now other than the 81 and Mark Gray, and he's going. Now, Tony Sokolov is going to come out just in front of Mark Gray. There's not much in it. This isn't for position. Just to make a point that Liam Watkinson needs to serve his stop and go penalty on this lap, otherwise he'll be disqualified. We do have one retirement from this race. I am just trying to figure out who that driver is, but we'll come back to it. Chappers is in the pits. Chappers is in the pits and Simon Whiting is in the pits. And I'm just trying to see. I think Mark Chapman's got past him. He has. Before they came into the pit lane, Mark Chapman's in his box. So we've not seen it with all the traffic that's been going on. Has Simon Whiting been balked by one of the traffic jams in front of him? And he's in the pits. So they were all reacting to the pit stop that was made by Tony Sokolov. I'm just looking to see where Sokolov is. Yeah, he's still in front of the number 23 of Howard Dunn. So they're all reacting to him. Nick Lamming is still circulating on track, so he's in second place at the moment. Tony Manley is third. Everyone else in that list that you can see with the one on is in the pits outside of Fabio Matt. But it is Dan Hatton who leads the way. It's Nick Lamming in second, yet to make a pit stop, those two. Sokolov is through turn one. So I think then, as Chappers gets underway, I think, I'm just looking, he's lost quite a lot of time. Simon Whiting's back in front of him. I wonder if Chappers had a bit of damage. There's a bit of damage to the back of Whiting's car. Can't really see it from there. Let me just see if I can get on board with him. So we skip through all the drivers. I've had several keyboards, by the way, and they just do not work for me. Look, Simon Whiting's car has got damage to the back of it, and I wonder if Chappers, I could be completely wrong, but if Chapman has given him a bit of a nudge accidentally and it's done some damage, because Sokolov is now 13 seconds in front of these two. In front of Simon Whiting alone. That gap was nowhere near as big. So I wonder if those two have had contact. They've had a little bit of damage. They've had to fix that little bit of damage. And maybe they've also changed tyres. But that's going to give Sokolov a huge buffer to just drive his own race into. As Liam Watkinson clears his stop. Go into the pits was the race leader. Where does Hatton come out here? He's going to come out behind Sokolov, who's just blasting past the pits now. He might be in front of Whiting here. This is going to be very close. He's still on the 31 mile an hour pit limiter. He's still on it. Now he can put the foot down. We're watching him. I can see Simon Whiting. He's going through turn one as well. This is going to be on the pit exit, I think. But I think Whiting is just in front. What a stint. And the other person who's played themselves into this race, and he's having an unbelievable time. Look at the massive Bentley. Stuart Packham is absolutely flying. He's in the fight for a podium. From basically 20th on the grid, he has flown through the order. And the Bentley boys are delighted with this because he sees the podium right in front of him. What happened to Mark Chapman and Simon Whiting? They must have come together. That's the only thing I can put it down to. An incident of some form. Let's just recycle our way through the order. So you've got Lamming, who's now coming into the pit. So that puts Tony Manley in the lead of an ACC Race Nation race. And I'm trying to think, has Tony Manley ever led here at ACC Race Nation before? I'm just thinking back to my commentary from the last two seasons. I don't think he has. No, he might have done once, actually. I think when he was in the turquoise AMR V8, I should say. But it's great to see him up there. He hasn't pitted yet, but that doesn't matter. That really doesn't matter. He's going to lead a lap, and that's the most important thing. It's Tony Sokolov in second, but it's a net first place. He's got a massive advantage over Simon Whiting. Then it's Daniel Hatton. Then it's Stuart Packham. Then it's Mark Chapman, who must have been fixing some damage. He's got Danny Zoutenmeyer right with him, who must be thinking to himself, I was running in third place. Why am I now suddenly all the way down the pecking order in sixth? As Lamming now comes out of the pits. So that timing tower will still need to update. There is literally just two drivers on circuit who are yet to pit. Fabio Matt, who's running in the top 10, but he's under pressure from being unlapped by Howard Dunn. He doesn't have to move out of the way of Howard Dunn, even if he is quicker than him, because Howard Dunn is a lap down. But to be fair to Matt, well, I thought he was moving out of the way, but it doesn't look like he is now. Manley carries on, so the Italian leads. It's Sokolov, Whiting, Hatton, Packham, and an ever more angry Mark Chapman, who I think is closing the gap here. Then it's Conor Gallagher, who's had a very good run to 8th place, actually, as Conor. I keep calling him Connor. I don't know why I keep calling him Connor. Do you know that I do apologise. If you're watching this, Colin, I do apologise that I keep calling you. It's nothing to do with Conor Gallagher, the football player, or anything like that. It's just that I've not been feeling well, and I keep reading my names wrong. That's all it is. So I apologise, Colin. But you are in 8th place, and you're doing a great job at the minute. And he has had a fab race Genuinely has done so far. It's been a really good race from him. Fabio Matt is 9th. Lamming is in 10th. Kosic going to be tight to whether he gets back into the top 10 after the pit stops, but he's got the speed to do so. Don't forget he was 2nd on the grid. I'm just looking at the gap between Chappers and Stuart Packham now as they cross the time. But Chapman is flying. That's half a second he's just took out in one split. Davies out and Byron in the Nissan. Then it's Ross Harris, Danny Felix, Mark Gray, whose race has just sort of unravelled away from him, unfortunately. And then followed by Gray. You don't have Gray, you got Dunn. Penders is up to 17th, and he's not far away from the guys in front of him. Watkinson is 18th, John Wells is 19th, and Van Buren is back in the pits. Byford Rue, despite his great qualifying, sadly has dropped down the field, and into the pits comes the gunmetal grey Aston Martin. The Italian of Tony Manley has been leading a couple of laps, but he's in the pit lane now. That's the wrong pit box, matey. There he goes, he's got the right one. That puts Sokolov into the lead. But Packham, that's a chance for Packham, he's close. He's looking to the outside at turn 1. The Bentley's got the speed, but does he have the ability to get past? It's going to be on the outside for turn 2 as well. He's going to brake a little bit earlier to try and get underneath Hatton, but he can't find a way through there. Going to try and... Well, we got on board with Hatton. So these guys having a little bit of fight is just bringing Mark Chapman back into this and allowing Simon Whiting to get away. But this is a big opportunity for Hatton. It could be the first big point score for him. I don't want to put a curse on him. You know, he's not had a result yet inside the top 10, and he's fighting over 3rd place with the Season 9 champion. You know, perspective and everything is a big key for context here in motor racing. But he's absolutely driving the wheels off that McLaren at the minute. He's just kept himself in the hunt. But Chapman is not a Season 9 champion for nothing. And he'll hunt, he'll probe, he'll try and look for a way past. Oh, that's a little bit deep from Hatton, but he does well. And he did that before. He ran wide earlier, but he stopped the car on the brakes. Stopped the drivers from getting past. That is a drive-through penalty for Nick Lamming. Oh, that's a shame, he was running well. Little bit wide from Hatton. Don't leave the door open up the inside. That was close. Packham almost finding a way through, but Chappers is now... I think he's going to be less than 3.5 seconds behind now. He's breezing up to these two. I'm going to get on board Byford Rue having all sorts of manner of issues there on his wheel. Hopefully that's just a visual glitch. Look at this, you can see how much time Chapman is pulling down on these two. You can see the nameplate of Packham in front. Big bump over the curbs at turn 5. But that gap is now 2.3 seconds. And then it'll be a question of who do I actually follow? There is Packham. Just always seems to get a good drive off of turn 7. He looks at the inside line, he's a little bit too far back for a lunge. And that's actually Nick Lamming being warned about his stop and go penalty, that he needs to serve it on this lap. I mean, whoever would have thought that Stuart Packham would come from effectively the back of the grid to be fighting over a podium? I mean, that's an incredible drive in itself. It's almost quite difficult for me to give a driver of the day, to be honest, because these two both deserve it for their performance. Sokolov still leads. Simon Whiting's in 2nd. He's got a nice gap now over the final podium position fight. It's Hatton versus Packham, and it's about to be Hatton versus Packham versus Chapman. That's now less than 1.5 seconds. absolutely demonstrating the ferocious pace that is going on inside that Aston Martin right now. That's a trio of a fight. Zolder, I think if this fight carries on, will latch onto the back of these three, and they'll make it a quartet. A little bit further back, you've got the 67 of Gallagher. Colin, that is, of course. And then Kosic, I think that's about as high as he's going to get, I think, in 8th place. Unless there's dramas in front of him. Don't see how the BMW gets any higher than that. And there we go, that's the trio confirmed. So Chapper's inside a second of this fight now. Fabio Matt is still yet to pit, actually. So he's going for a very long stint. Don't know if he's hoping for a red flag. I'm quite impressed that he's managed to stick it out for this long. Tony Manley on the back of Davies out and by, who's done a good job to recover back to 10th place as the Dutchman. So good drive this from the number 18. Fending off the free 18. There is Fabio Matt. Look at, I don't know how he's still surviving on those tyres. He's got to make a pit stop, there's no doubt about it. Well, I wonder if he's thinking if he can get rid of all the fuel. I wonder what his plan is here with that. There's Zoutenbayer, there's Penders, Sokolov still in the lead, Van Buren in the pits. I think that might be done now. Davies Zoutenbayer, he's fighting the car through turn 4. He's trying to stick in front of Tony Manley. I'm also just keeping an eye out on the battles further up the field. Hatton is still in front of that train as far as I can see. I think they are coming up to a back marker, which I'm going to skip on towards. So yeah, there you go. You've got Hatton, then Packham, and then Mark Chapman all together, and they're coming up to the back of Mark Gray, who would have probably been involved in this fight had he have not had the issues that he came across earlier on in the race. But this is the last spot on the podium, and now he's got to try and navigate the traffic. Just coming up to the final quarter of the race, Gray gets out of the way to the right hand side. Everybody's going to go past him. Oh, Chapman just a little bit later on the brakes there. Oh, a massive bounce. Every time I see the Aston Martin go over those curbs, I think it's going to get bounced into the barriers, but I get proven wrong each time. Now Fabio Matt with 15 minutes to go. I think the Italian should have pitted maybe 5 or 10 minutes ago, to be honest with you, but Davies Zoutenbayer won't care a jot about that, because if he can find a way past, he'll look to do it. Round turn 4 they go. Fabio still in front of him, just clipping between them, and there's been a change. There has been a change, and Packham has got past Hatton for 3rd place. Oh, and a little slide from the McLaren. Where's Chapman? He's alongside him. A little bit of a short shift of a gear change, and the Aston Martin's got momentum. It's going to be a little bit further ahead. The McLaren brakes later, but he's braked too late. And that is a move completed for Mark Chapman, and sadly for Hatton, his spirited defence has dropped him 2 places in the matter of officially 2 corners. But for Hatton, that's been a really strong drive from him today. He's still not over, he's still involved in the fight, but that defence was fantastic. To hold off a champion and a race winner like that for as long as he did is mightily impressive, but that pressure just told in the end. But still, if he finishes in the top 5, he will be delighted as Tony Manley finally finds his way past Fabio Matt. I think he has done anyway. Let's just have a look from the rear view camera. Yes, he's done that. Now, the next question on our lips is, what is Stuart Packham's pace compared to Simon Whiting? because he's going to be bringing Mark Chapman along with him. And if Packham's smart here, he'll try and not fight too much with Chappers and try and bring them both up to the back of the McLaren to make this a 3-car fight for the last 2 places on the podium. And of course 3 into 2 don't go. And someone is going to go home crying. And there's less than 13.5 minutes to go in the session now. I think I might have accidentally just clipped away from... Oh, Fabio Matt's had an accident and then he's had a lag into the wall. That's what happens when you don't make that pit stop. Those tyres had screamed enough after 48 minutes of abuse. Kosic looks like he's cemented that 8th place. I think that is it. He's 21 seconds behind Colin Gallagher. I don't think he's going to catch up to him now. I think that's that fight run and done. And to be fair to Packham, he's pulled away from Chappers on this lap. Just looking at the lap side, there's back markers as well which are playing a factor in the fights here. You've got John Wells just in front of the Bentley, moves right out of the way, and then I think John Wells will take his line back up. Yeah, he does. So that's something that Chapman now has to navigate, and he won't like the fact that the M4 is between him and his on-track rival. But Wells is within his right to be there, providing he's not slowing him down. So maybe the next corner he'll let him go. Oh, he's just held him up a little bit there. I think now Wells will get out of the way. Yes, he does. So that's that bit of traffic out of the way for Chappers, but he didn't lose as much time as I thought he would have done. I thought it'd be a lot more than that, but he's still about the same gap between himself and Stuart Packham. But Packham is closing Whiting down. And after the last car in front of them, which looks to be Liam Watkinson, once he's out of the way, there's no traffic for a good few corners. So this could be a straight fight to the end of the race between the three of them, and they'll all see each other. We shall see. There we go. Watkinson gets out of the way of all three of them. Onto another lap they go. 10 minutes and 43 seconds remaining on the clock, and look at this now. If Stuart Packham finishes in second place, he will be comfortably my driver of the day. I know that Tony Sokolov has, in the second half of the race, breezed away from everybody. I think that might have been assisted by the fact that Chapman and Whiting had a bit of an incident that was unseen, and that definitely extended the gap. But to come from basically 20th on the grid to be running in third place right now is an almighty achievement. Oh, look at this. He's all over the back of the McLaren. He's trying to duck one way and the other. Oh, I thought he was going to make a late lunge as Chapman gets right underneath the rear spoiler. Let's see if we can get on board. I wish I could do this in a quicker way, but unfortunately sometimes games don't like me. Here we go then. Look at the closing speed on the Bentley here. To the outside line he goes. He's going to try and go all the way around the outside at turn 8. But he's got to be careful, Packham. He's got to attack and defend. Whiting putting on a defensive masterclass right now. He just squeezes the door shut. And the McLaren remains in second place as a big kick of oversteer comes out of the back of that Bentley. Oh, he got that a little bit wrong. Chapman's right underneath the bumper. He's going to look to the outside line, but I don't think Chappers is going to make his way round there. Oh, wow, the closing speed. The closing speeds on this track are incredible. I've seen Chappers and Packham have different lines to everybody else. But Chapman is really strong out of turn 2 and 3. Whereas Packham is fabulous out of turn 7 and 8. But all the while, they're behind Simon Whiting. Big jump that was from the Bentley. I'm surprised the ground didn't collapse. Danny Zoutenbayer still in 6th place. Hatton's not too far away from this. If this gets started to go a little bit heated for these three, if there's an incident, it's Hatton's podium. What a story that'd be. What a story that would be. Whiting, he's on the brakes. He gets closed up a little bit by Packham. He's got a tighter line out of turn 8. There are fights around the circuit, but they're not for position, really. This is the big fight. Well, that's why we're following it for 2nd place. If I have a little bit of a scan back through, you know, you got Davies out and by and Tony Manley. That's Packham going up the outside. Look at the speed that he's got. And he just can't squeeze through. Whiting breaks a little bit later to hang on. Up the inside. Oh, I thought that would have been an optimistic lunge. Track limits and a drive-through penalty. Drive-through this time for Nick Lammin. So it's gone from frustrating evening to bad evening for him. But it's bringing Hatton back into this. He's only 2.3 seconds behind. I did say if there's any issues, any incidents, Danny Zoutenbayer's not far away either. Manley's close to the back of Davies Zoutenbayer. Those two have had a great fight all the way through this race, but I'm still predominantly focusing on this fight. Look at this. Through the chicane, they are nose to tail. Oh, a little bit of understeer for the Bentley. That's going to promote an opportunity to Chapman, and sure enough, Packham has to defend the middle of the road. The Aston trying to go around the outside. 6.5 minutes to go. Who's your podium going to be? If you're watching this live, do put a comment in below. There's a couple of yous watching. It's great to see you. Because Dan Hatton is in this fight now. And he's with 2 race winners and a champion. He's having a great time. I'll tell you what, if Hatton gets on the podium, he'd have to have 2 drivers of the day. But this is absolutely brilliant class racing from the GT3 drivers here tonight. 35 laps done. I've not talked too much about Sokolov because he's absolutely flying up the road. He's had a wonderful drive and he's got not long to go. This is a chance for Chappers. He's going to look to the outside line as they approach the chicane, but I don't think he's close enough. And the thing with the Bentley, oh, as he moves across in the braking zone, did Packham then. The thing for the AMR V8 is that although that Aston is a quick car, he's got the absolute Bentley unit in front of him that he has to try and contend with. But because they're fighting so hard, it's just giving that little bit of respite to Simon in front of us. 5 minutes 12 to go. I think Chappers has had a little mistake there. He's just lost a second, and that now gives a bit of a reprieve for the 108 Bentley. He can now focus fully, at least for a lap, on the rear spoiler of that McLaren in front of him. Sky's darkening here. Oh, that's a little bit wide from Whiting. That's a chance. Now, can Packham use the power of the Bentley to go alongside and maybe through? At turn 1, you can see the closing speed. Whiting's going to have to get brave on the brakes here, and he does. Runs a touch wide with understeer. A little wiggle mid-corner, but he holds it. And Whiting, again, fighting off the Bentley we're on board with. This is absolutely fabulous to watch. This is a blockbuster finish. But can Packham get a good exit here? The McLaren slide in mid-corner. The Aston Martin behind us looks absolutely planted. I'd say Chapman is probably the most comfortable of the drivers. He was looking to the inside of Packham there again. And Hatton is right back with them once again. They're all under a second of one another. Oh, on the brakes, that is so close. Got to be careful with track limits like that, Stuart, because you might get a drive-through for that if you're not careful. And speaking of, Nick Lamming has been disqualified for track limits. Wow. Well, it does happen, folks. Less than 4 minutes to go. We've lost the car to a DQ as Packham cuts the inside of the curb, and that just allowed the car to fishtail. A 4-car fight for 2 final spots on the podium. In fact, I'm just looking at Zoutenbayer. You can see him. He's in the same shot. They're all fighting so hard. This is mission impossible for Simon Whiting. It's a little bit like Gilles Villeneuve at Jarama back in 1982. Does feel like Whiting's got the slower car, but just pure car control is keeping him in front of quicker drivers behind, just because of the situation. I don't think Simon... I'm going to guesstimate here and say that he didn't change his tyres, because that McLaren looks very sideways at times into the chicane. Nice exit from Packham, but there's just not enough road for him to go through. He's going to try and go for it around the outside. He's going to brake a little bit later, but he can't get through. The McLaren on the brakes is so strong. He's just got to try and keep putting the McLaren offline. This defence from Simon is inspired. And he moves to the inside of the track. He knows where the Bentley's quicker now. He knows the big points he's got to try and defend. And Packham can't get the car turned in. I thought there might have been an Aston Martin sneaking its nose up the inside there, but he couldn't quite find a way through. And again, you can see that closing speed. I think we've got time for 2 more laps. If my estimations are correct, a little wobble for the McLaren, and this is going to be another chance now for the Bentley. He's going to go to the inside. That was clever. He's going to be on the marbles. There's a lot less grip out there. And he can't find a way through. And there's Chapman trying to find a way past. He's going to try and look to the outside line. I don't know if that's going to work. He does normally get a good run out of turn 3. But I don't think that's close enough. You can see the red proximity arrow underneath there. You can just see it on the bottom of the tarmac of your screen. He's very, very close. But look how close he is in the rear view mirror. To the inside, he's going to have a little look. But it'd be a brave man who'd try and overtake from that far back. And I think Chapman's just got that line a little bit wrong then. Hatton is still there. Zoutenbayer's within a second of this fight. It's a quintet at the end of the race. I won't even have a chance to talk too much about Sokolov, who's just breezed away tonight. Whiting again defending into turn number 8, and again Packham can't find a way through. It is the final lap, so Sokolov has started it. At what point does Packham decide to lunge for it? Or does he play smart? Oh! Chappers went almost into the back of Packham there at the final corner. That's why I went, oh, and then my headset turned off. Less than ideal, but Packham is putting all the pressure on. He's doing everything he can. He's got to up the curb to try and go around the outside of him. Chappers is still there. He's pushing his way through the turn 4 corner, is the Bentley, but he's not there yet. He still can't get past this McLaren, who is putting up the biggest defence I've ever seen from the British since the Battle of Britain back in 1940. This is outstanding. And look at him now. He's on the outside. This is the chance for Packham if he wants to do it, but he just got on the marbles and it unsettled the car. That might just close that opportunity off. They're line astern, all 5 of them, through the chicane. I just want to very, very quickly cut back to our race winner, because well done to Tony Sokolov. He's going to take victory. What a drive from him. And that is Danny Zoutenbayer trying to go around the outside of Hatton. And thanks to the camera control on this game, we can't see it. There we can see it that way. Simon Whiting, take a bow. He's going to hang on. I don't know how he's done it, but he's just held on. Great result for Whiting. It's Stuart Packham in, well, not in third. He moves out of the way. Wow. So Simon Whiting takes second place. Mark Chapman is third. Hatton is fourth. Packham is fifth. Zoutenbayer must have got it a little bit wrong with his overtake. He ends up in sixth place. Colin Gallagher, well done. You're going to finish in seventh place for the Irish as he slipstreams his way up to the back of the M4 of John Wells. Josip Kosic, what could have been? He could have been involved in that fight as well, the number 9. But he'll be 8th in the end in the M4. Davy Zoutenbayer wins his race-long battle with Tony Manley to come home in 9th place in the Nissan. Great drive from Davy, that, to be fair. Both Zoutenbayers in the top 10. And Tony Manley, great result for the 318s. He is going to get inside the top 10. He'll be chuffed to bits with that. Ross Harris is 11th. Danny Felix 12th. Mark Gray 13th. 14th will go the way of Howard Dunn. Liam Watkinson 15th. Is he still circulating, Liam? I think he is. John Wells, Fabio Matt 16th and 17th. It's Byford Rue in 18th place. But let's just recover the fact that Tony Sokolov, for whichever reason, we'll have to find out sometime after the race, he just gapped everybody. And after he got that gap, he was in Planet Croatia, driving away from everybody, having the time of his life. So he took the race win. It was a superb fight for second place between Simon Whiting and Stuart Packham, but in the end Whiting held out, took that second place. Packham stopped. We'll have to find out why Stuart stopped after that, because that is an interesting one. Maybe something went on between him and Mark Chapman, but Chapman as a result got third place. Dan Hatton, what a race from him, fourth in the end, so close to a podium. Packham was fifth, Zoutenbayer in sixth place in the end. Everybody else, they had some good battles across the field. It was really nice to see Colin Gallagher in 7th, Kosic in 8th, Davy Zoutenbayer in 9th, Tony Manley in 10th place. Ross Harris will be happy with 11th. He'll be delighted not to have been involved in anything too major today. And then we have bigger extending gaps through the fields, like Danny Felix was a couple of seconds behind, and it was Mark Gray on his own thanks to damage early on. You had in 14th place Howard Dunn having a bunch of battles throughout the field. Dennis Penn, there's a good recovery for him, but I think he'd be disappointed that he got caught up in that accident earlier on. Watkinson was 16th, John Wells was 17th, and then gaps back to Byford Rue, Fabio Matt, Jeffrey Van Buren. Rich Jarram retired early on, which was unfortunate after his accident. And also we saw the disqualification of Nick Lamming, who was having a good fight, but sadly for him it all seemed to just disappear from him in the second half of the race. And Chapper's saying he had 18 seconds of damage going into the pit. See, we didn't catch what happened between yourself and Simon, and whether there was a back marker involved. And I knew something had gone on. There was some form of damage, but sadly we missed that. Byford Rue saying P3 and GT4s yesterday, P18 and GT3. Just the way the cookie crumbles. It really does. Chapper's saying Simon went too hot into the pit and I followed. That might explain it a little bit more. But what a race, what a fantastic race, and it was really, really good fun to watch. There was a lot of action going on. Rich Jarram retiring because he was not feeling too well. That's why Stuart Packham slowed down. He didn't want ballast in his Bentley. But great fights up and down the field. You know, really, really good display tonight. And I'm sure you guys who are all watching had a great time with it as well. Next week, the drivers will be heading off to Laguna Seca for round 5. It's a shame that I'm not able to commentate on that event, because I would have liked to have seen these cars around Laguna. But alas, it's unfortunate that I can't do it. But the next race that we do commentate on is round 6 at the Red Bull Ring, and that is the 2-hour race before the season break. So that will be a fun one. Looking forward to that. But thank you very much for watching. For everyone who's on the streams, quite a lot of you here tonight. It's really good to see you all. I'll be uploading this to YouTube as well. But from me, Jack Millington, your commentator for ACC Race Nation, what a Grand Prix we had. And I'm going to call it a Grand Prix because of all that action that was out there today. It was outstanding. But thank you very much for watching tonight. And wherever you might be in the big wide world, have a good one. We'll see you very soon.